Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, I'd like to talk about drinking, rather broadly speaking. Not anything particularly about drinking, just rather stories about drinking and what I have learned about drinking as I've gone from young to old and so on and so forth. Not old necessarily, but old enough to where it doesn't make sense to drink a whole lot anymore, and that's how it goes. To start off, I want to say I'm not going to glorify drinking or anything like that. I actually did not drink until I was 21. There are many people who will drink beforehand, and in my opinion, I missed out on nothing. If you are not drinking right now, or if you're young, or if you think about this and you're like, oh man, like older, cooler people drink, it's really not that amazing. It wasn't like I was missing any like life-shattering experiences. You don't really learn anything from drinking. The only thing you build from drinking is a tolerance to drinking. So yeah, alcohol is really not that great. But it's kind of an interesting thing because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's a lot of different types of drinks, and people make a living on it. People who do alcohol stuff is interesting. You go to like alcohol festivals and things like that. So there's plenty of like interesting, cultural reasons to drink, or it's good for social stuff. You can meet people potentially. I've never been the type to meet people at bars, but that's a thing that you can do. But anyway, though, back when I was 21 is when I first started drinking. When I was in college, and I hadn't tried anything beforehand, and a good number of my friends were kind of in a similar vein. If you've seen any of the old Allen Hour videos, we used to have beers stacked up all over the place. We did drink a fair amount. We didn't drink because we made that look. What that was is we would have like friends over and we would all drink, like all of us would be drinking. So that was actually a group effort, all those bottles. There's not just me and Alan. But we drank a fair amount. I wasn't the biggest drinker of the group. But while I was in college, I remember I was drinking. I got to where I was like drinking very frequently. Like I'd just go out and buy like cheap vodka. And like I would have an exam to study for, or a like homework to do, or whatever. And so I would just sit there doing my engineering homework while like nursing a bottle of vodka. And you'd think that this would be really challenging, but if you're only drinking like a little bit of vodka just to get a buzz, then you can sit there and you can sort of do stuff. I still don't recommend it because it screws up your ability to do things. But anyway, going way back to alcohol, I had a very bumpy introduction to alcohol. When I first started drinking, as most people will tell you, alcohol tastes like garbage. It just tastes like awful. It's like sour. It's kind of disgusting. It's an acquired taste no matter what you do. So my very first drink that I was able to find palatable, we went down to this bar. And to this day, this is still one of my favorite bars that I've ever been to. But it was a piano bar. And what happened was, people would go down there and they had all these instruments and they'd set up their instruments and they would play. And I liked to go down there all the time back when I was in college because you could go and you'd pay the guy and you'd be like, play Dude Looks Like a Lady, play Fernando, play Lola. And I remember one guy got upset because like we were the ones, like we were putting the most money on all our stuff, and so we were just making him sing about like transsexuals all night, and he was just like, all right, who's responsible for this? And like we cheered. It was like, it's us. And he goes, someone else come on guys, why do I have to sing weird songs all night? It was because we were there. Yeah. But that was the first bar that I ever drank at, really. And I remember I talked to the bartender, and the bartender was like, what do you want? And I was like, well, I've never really had a drink before, and the last time, I think like on my 21st birthday, my parents offered me some wine, and I thought it tasted terrible, because all I could taste was the alcohol. And I remember my parents being like, well, I guess you must not have experimented with alcohol much before you were of age. And I was like, nope, no, I didn't. They're like, yep, that's pretty tellable. Because it wasn't like bad wine. It was just like the first time you ever taste alcohol, it just tastes like alcohol. Yes, so I was like, I don't know, maybe something that doesn't taste like alcohol very much. And they were like, oh, like, I don't know, like, what are you looking for, like a fruity kind of drink? And I was like, well, how do you mean like fruity? And they're like, well, I don't know, it just tastes like fruit or something. And I was like, I guess. And so she goes, well, I could get you a Shirley Temple. And I was like, oh, is that alcoholic? And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, we put alcohol in it. So they came out with a Shirley Temple. And a Shirley Temple is like, I think it's like cherry juice and Sprite or something like that. I don't know what exactly it is. But I know cherry juice is involved. It tastes like cough syrup, basically. It's just like cough syrup, and like it's like cherry juice and vodka or something like that. And so I had a few drinks, and I went home, and the first time I ever went out drinking, it was probably with my friend, who he drank more than any of the rest of us. I mean, Some people are totally responsible when you go to the bar. Some people are not. This particular friend, I remember, like, he started drinking, and then he started, like, really drinking. And then, like, later on, I would go on Facebook, and I would see pictures of him, like, in a woman's dress, like, covered in makeup. And it was like he had done this explicitly because it made other people laugh. And he would just be, like, smash drunk. Like, he would get drunk, go and put on, like, a woman's clothes and, like, makeup and everything else, and then come out and keep drinking. Like, it was that sort of thing. Like, he would just get, like, too drunk. You know, and that's not, like, one of the most... I don't know, I just remember seeing him on Facebook. Like, he'd uploaded this video to Facebook while he was drunk. And I was just like, hey, man, you might have had too many, a little too drunk. But he didn't like it to be told that he was drinking too much, you know. You get this sort of thing where it's like, don't spoil my fun. You know, like, don't ruin my day. These sorts of things. So this is why I say I'm not really advocating drinking. I'm just saying there's, you know, there's a lot that goes on when it comes to drinking. You got to drink responsibly. Don't drive. Don't put on a dress unless you really want to wear a dress. Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah. For a little while though, that was like my first drink was just the really fruity drinks. I did that my first night. And then after that, I discovered that I really liked White Russians, which if you're familiar with White Russian. White Russian is like Kahlua or some other kind of coffee liquor. It's a sort of chocolate liquor, I suppose. Coffee chocolate liquor. I'm not sure exactly how to describe Kahlua, but it's a sort of like a thick chocolatey sort of thing, and you mix that with vodka, I think, and then you put in a bit of creamer. And after that, I started doing cocktails, and so I kind of worked my way up as I went from like White Russians to Manhattans, and then Manhattans became my drink of choice, and that's still kind of what I drink today. If I go to the restaurant and they say, "What would you like to drink, sir?" I say, "A Manhattan," because I like a Manhattan. Manhattan is bourbon and sweet vermouth, and you get some bitters and some cherries, maybe a little bit of cherry juice if you like, and there you go. You got your Manhattan. There's different types of whiskey that goes into a Manhattan. I think that I sort of dislike Tennessee whiskey in a Manhattan, if I remember correctly, but some people tell me that's just Jack, and I know Jack's okay. Yes, but yeah, I kind of worked my way up just doing cocktails all the time. What was funny though is that then people would ask me, they're like, "Oh, hey, so Greg, you're drinking now. Do you want to go down to like this beer festival?" So at one point I went down to this beer festival, and I found out that beer is also an acquired taste. If you think that like getting comfortable with alcohol is difficult, turns out that getting comfortable with beer is even harder. Because beer, unlike a cocktail, which is cocktails are purposefully mixed to hide the taste of alcohol. Because the origin of a cocktail was that they came around, or they became popular during the Prohibition era when they were producing like a lot of like really crappy low quality liquor and then just selling it for jacked up prices. You know, you'd mix that with like a Coca-Cola or whatever, and you'd hide the taste of like how bad this stuff was. Like you're basically drinking gasoline, and so the idea behind a cocktail was to hide that it was just gasoline. You know, that's why you throw in your cherries and stuff like that. So it actually kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like a cocktail, although it's a harder source of liquor, although you're getting more drunk from drinking it, it's designed to specifically hide some of the nasty taste. Beer is funny in that it's always going to have a terrible taste, and you just have to drink it until you get used to it. So I went to this beer festival, and this was terrible because you had to take a ticket, and if you got in fast enough, then you got a ticket and you got the drink from all the people. And we got in like soon enough that theoretically like our group was able to drink from every single still if we wanted to. And so it was a big contest thing. It was like, this is the best in the state, and this is the second best, you know, this one blue ribbon, this one bronze, whatever it was. And I still had not acquired a taste for drinking. So my friends were like going around with these little shot glasses full of beer, and they're like, "Oh man, taste this one." And so they would all give it a taste, and this would be like, this was the prize winner. And they're like, "Here you go, Greg. This was rated the very best beer in the state." And I would drink it, and I'd just be like, "Ugh, it tastes like beer, guys." And they'd be like, "Oh, maybe you don't like dark beer. Here, try this light beer. This was the light beer winner. This one won." And try that, and be like, "Oh, it tastes like beer, guys." And then they're like, "Oh, man, okay. Here, try this one. This is like a fruit-based beer." And we're like, "Oh, it tastes like beer, guys." So I did that whole day. And what was funny about that, you'd think that would be like a really exciting, clear skies, like happy kind of day. But actually, no, it was raining. And so it was all my friends just kind of standing around out there getting gradually more and more drunk in the rain. Well, I couldn't quite choke down the beer because I hadn't acquired a taste for it. And I was just like, tastes like beer. No, I don't want to drink it. So everyone was having fun, like, because the alcohol just, it impairs everyone's judgment. And so, like, my favorite part of that trip, I think, was when we went to go get pizza afterward. It was like, okay, it's all wrapping up. Let's go get pizza. And so I went to go get pizza, and that was when I was able to order, like, a drink that I found palatable and could drink with everybody. Yes, but I know I'm not the only one who suffered through that. I remember my past couple of girlfriends have been a little bit younger than me, usually by between 1 and 5 years. Like Ken's is about 5 years younger than me, but my girlfriend at the time was 1 year younger than me, and so she wound up being able to drink, the year after, and I'd had some experiences with alcohol. And she was kind of funny because she was she was kind of uptight about it. Like, I was like, well, you want to go down to the bars? I mean, you're 21 now. We could go down to the bar. And she's like, oh, I don't think I should drink. Like, I think drinking is a sinful, terrible activity. I don't want to do it. It's very bad. I've always been told not to do it. I don't think we should go. And I was like, well, okay, well, we don't have to. But then sooner or later, one of those days, I finally persuaded her to go down to the bar, and this was mainly because one of the bars had an aquarium. And I was just telling her about these bars that I like. I was like, oh yeah, they got the piano bar, and they've got the aquarium bar. And she's like, an aquarium bar? And I'm like, yeah, they've got like all these big tropical fish, and you can go down there and like you have a few drinks, and you watch the fish, and sometimes they come through, they feed the fish at night, because people like to watch the fish do stuff. So, we'd come down and we'd watch them, like, we'd watch the fish. So that was the first time that I ever got her to go out and drink with me, as far as I recall. I might be mistaken. There might have been, like, some kind of at-home drinking that she warmed up to previously. But she wound up on the same thing. It was, like, cocktails and stuff like that, where this was neat. They had these little plastic sharks, and they would fill them up with, like, some kind of fruit thing. And so it was red, and what you do is you take the shark and you drop it into your drink, and like all the red would spill out, so it looks like blood coming out of the shark's mouth. So this was kind of cool. So this is one of these little gimmicks that they used to get people to come in. And then there was like one other place that didn't have any sort of gimmick, and I don't know why we went there. I think it was because they had like a loft that you could go out of, and there was like an open air sort of deal. And I think that after we'd had a few drinks, like, we just didn't really care where we were, so we just like go to this place, and we'd like go up the stairs, and then, man, like an upstairs bar, now that I think about it, I just can't it's like probably one of the worst bars that we ever went to. I mean, it was a good bar, but it was probably one of the worst bars that we ever went to regularly. Oh no, now I remember why it was. It was because it was above a cafe. So we'd go up to this bar, and then we would get drunk, and then we would come down and we'd hang out in the cafe and like eat muffins and like watch really old cartoons, because for some reason this cafe was always showing like Astro Boy and just old cartoons, like really old stuff, like old Mickey Mouse cartoons that the skeletons dancing around, stuff like that. They showed this whenever you came down there, so that's why we did that. It wasn't for the bar above, it was for the cafe below. Yeah, but anyway, though, the shark attack, that got her into that, and then she, like many people that I knew who were rather uptight about alcohol, after she warmed up to the idea, then she went a little crazy. I remember she went out a few nights and like would come home, and I could hear her come home, because it would just be like, boom, crash, stumbles, crash, door, slam, bed. Like, she just flopped down on the bed, because we lived together. And then so I'd wake up the next morning and be like, wow, what'd you do? And she's like, oh, I had like a couple Long Island iced teas. And if you're not familiar with Long Island iced tea, this is like a whole ton of alcohol, and it's super deceptive because it tastes good. It doesn't taste like you're gonna get smashed on this sort of thing, but it's a sneaky evil one. This is one of the ones that like people joke about this. Like, if you're a young lady and you have never been drinking before, and some nice guy comes up and offers to buy you a Long Island iced tea, he is trying to get you smashed, because you will drink this thing and you will not realize how wasted you are getting until it's too late. That's a very deceptive drink. So she's like, yeah, my friends kept buying me Long Island iced teas, and I'm like, yep, that sounds like your friends are diabolical, horrible people. Yes. But yeah, it was kind of a good time. And then once I got out of college, we got back, and that's when I really warmed up to beer. That's when I finally started drinking with like Alan and everybody else, and they were kind of more into beer. Beer's a little bit cheaper. Beer's kind of in a lot of ways, like if I buy, for example, whiskey, like just a bottle of whiskey, it's a little funny because you can pour yourself a glass of whiskey, but like there's always more whiskey there. Whereas like a beer bottle, you can sort of say like, okay, this is exactly X amount of ounces. If I have 3 bottles of beer, I will be in good shape and I'm done for the rest of the night. And as I've gotten older, that's become more and more important because I find that nowadays, like, because I quit drinking, there came a point, actually, I was drinking very frequently, and then Kenzo, one day, she just goes, Greg, could you just, like, stop drinking? And I told her, yeah, okay, it's not good for me. And believe it or not, I actually just tapered down. I went from drinking virtually every day to just, I didn't quit cold turkey, but I was like, I'll skip drinking today. And I just drank less and less until eventually I pretty much just quit drinking entirely. These days, I only drink on the rare occasion, like I'll go out once every couple of months and maybe pick up some beer or some whiskey or something like that, and then it completely ruins my day because the thing is I've lost my tolerance for alcohol and I'm also getting older. So 2 things happen. The first is which I get drunk more easily, and so this is bad. And then afterward I get horrible hangovers. I don't sleep well and I wake up feeling terrible. In fact, it was quite recently that I really had my first real like day ruining hangover when I just woke up and was like, oh no, I drank too much. This was after an argument, so it was just like I think I was just staying up, and then and the time was drinking, and it wasn't like I drank because of the argument. It was just that at the time it'd been a nice day, and I'd gone out and I'd gotten some alcohol, and then I brought it home, and and then I had like a beer, and then an argument started, and then by the end of the night I had finished off like the whole 6-pack or whatever in one sitting. And the next day I woke up just horrifically hungover, just thinking to myself, I am too old to drink an entire 6-pack by myself. That is not good. That was not good. And this ultimately is the bottom line why I say, I don't encourage drinking. I don't think it's good. You reach a certain point in your life, and it depends on who you are, where alcohol is really just no good for you in any real capacity at all. I mean, everybody drinks a little bit. Well, not everybody drinks a little bit. A lot of people drink a little bit here and there. But to be honest, it is a vice. I really can't say anything too positive about it. I don't know why we do this, but I've heard that monkeys actually will also drink. Like, in places, there's this place where these fruits will fall off of these trees and then they ferment. And what happens is after they ferment, monkeys will go and they'll pick up the fruits and they'll eat the fruits. And if the monkeys are by themselves, if they find these fruits by themselves, they really won't eat very many of the fruits because there's no point in getting wasted if you're just a lone monkey by yourself. But if all your monkey friends are there, they find that monkeys in groups just eat these things to just getting completely smashed. And this is, I don't know, just a weird human psychology. People are like that. Like, if one of your friends is drinking, you might feel compelled to say like, oh, okay, I'll get a drink. There's a very specific neurotransmitter that does this. I can't remember what it is. It starts with a G. But I remember learning about this. I want to say GABA? GABA? Something like that? I can't remember. I'd have to dig out one of my old books. But yeah, there's a very specific neurotransmitter that does this, that leads you into like habitual behavior like that based on social circumstances. And this is why actually they say if you have a drinking problem, the best thing that you can do for yourself is you have to avoid your friends when they drink. Or if you have friends who are also habitual drinkers, you gotta not hang out with them anymore, because you know, being around people who drink will make you feel compelled to drink. And so I get this every now and then. Like Isu gets on the streams and then Isu drinks and she goes, Greg, drink, and I'm like, I would like to drink, and so then I'll go and I'll buy alcohol the next day. Just weird human psychology. But other than that, though, I pretty much don't drink anymore. On another note, though, I do have kind of an amusing and sad story. Is the very first time that I took when I went out to Berlin to see Kenza, I took her out to this fantastically nice restaurant, and I bought her like this super nice wine to go with the meal. It was like man, the restaurant was one of those like top notch, like rated with like a Michelin star, like just it was supposed to be one of the best restaurants that you could go to. And so we got this wine, and so it was like really good wine. Like we actually had a guy come out, and he goes, "Oh, it'll have it'll taste like this, and it'll have a hint of almonds and this and that." And so he was like a wine expert, or I don't know. We went to a school apparently about alcohol, and he was like, "Yep, this is what you're gonna get." And so he brought it out, and you know, with the setup and everything, it's tough to say when they're setting you up to really enjoy something like that. It's hard to say how much of it is like, you know, placebo, just the psychology, and how much is the fact that the wine is really good. But that's of course why they do it though, because it doesn't matter if they set up a placebo and like a man in a suit comes out and he tells you exactly how much you're going to enjoy the wine, and then you believe it and you really enjoy the wine. Well, that was the whole point. So it's you know, it's a good service. It's a neat thing. And so anyway, so I like really enjoyed the wine. And so Kenza had never drunk before. She'd always been good. She's a good girl. So she took the wine and she drank. She had a little sip of it. And she just makes that face, and I recognized the face, and I was like, oh no. Oh no, you've never had alcohol before. And she shakes her head. And I'm like, oh. It was like super expensive wine, top shelf, like aged, you know, from a fine restaurant. Rough times. So, alcohol, funny thing. You know, it's one of those things that makes you curious. It's like such a bad habit. And when you drink, like, once you acquire a taste for alcohol, you kind of understand, like, you understand why people do it emotionally. But logically speaking, you know, it's something that's like, it's not like a really good habit. It really doesn't do anything productive for you. If the universe were a fair and ordered place, like, people wouldn't really like drinking. But people do. It's just a weird, one of those weird things. But I don't know. I thought that would be an interesting subject for the upcoming New Year's, which this video will be posted after the New Year's. But anyway, I was just thinking about it. I hope you guys have a good New Year. I hope you're having a good night, a good evening, whatever the case. I will catch you all next time.